This is Rob Liefeld. Kai Review is going down.
Hey guys, just finished watching Swamp Thing, Season 1, Episode 10, Loose Ends. This episode was an interesting one. Definitely was a fun season, and I really think this season was really good. This episode, obviously it's episode 10, and they originally were going to have 13, but they got cut, and they were only able to do 10 episodes. So it's interesting, there is a video online where Dirk Mears, the guy who physically played Swamp Thing, talks to Collider. They have a video, and he talks pretty much openly about the cancellation and how things kind of went down. And it's quite interesting kind of playing with that and hearing his how what they went through with that show, and how they were, they were in the middle of filming or finishing episode 10. They got the script for episode 11, and then that's when they had to stop and redo episode 10 to end it properly. So I think that was kind of interesting with that. And you do get a bit of a whiplash with this show. Like, it feels like you're just kind of stopping all little sudden, a bit of kind of a jolt the way it kind of ends and stuff. Just in general for this show and this episode. But for how things happened, I think it definitely was an interesting ending. I mean, there obviously was going to be that jolting effect because of how things, you get cut 3 episodes short, you're gonna get whiplash from the ending of that. And the thing is, it was it was a big whiplash that kind of throws you and ruins the whole season. It's like, ooh, you don't know how they're gonna, it's not like they kind of ruins the whole season or ruins it for like, ooh, they screwed everything up so much right now. I don't know if there's anything left for another season, potentially, but they do end it in a good way, and I think it's kind of nice the way they end it, allowing them to kind of, there is an opening for a season 2 if someone ever wants to pick this up, which I think they definitely need to do, because the show was amazing, especially if they can do it properly and not have to worry about anything, and they don't have to, they can write it properly and not have to worry about get a proper ending and all that stuff. That could have been really cool to see, but I guess we'll never get that. We see that we start off this episode. We see that there are some soldiers in town that are here to help. The doctor guy there. I can't think of his name there. But he is there. They're there to help him, find Swamp Thing and track him down. And they're quite interesting. These soldiers guys in the town. They reminded me a lot of the soldiers from like the 80s action, like Schwarzenegger movies type thing. Kind of like in Predator and stuff. So I think that was kind of interesting with that. How they're just their line and their dialogue and the way they're acting. Some very cheesy, very 80s. Just cheesy and stuff like that. The campy and stuff. I think that was kind of funny, and it seemed like it was almost like it was done on purpose in this episode, just to write them like that. So I think that was kind of cool, since the situation. They even had lines that kind of were lifted right from Schwarzenegger's Predator movie, right? So I think that was really kind of cool, the way they were doing that. I think it was kind of interesting. That's why it was kind of funny seeing the characters like that. So we see that Liz in this episode finds out knows that Daniel is the Blue Devil, and we end his arc. We leave him off with him just able to leave. Finally, he went to leave Marie, and he's able to leave town. So kind of leaving it open there for his spin-off potentially type thing. So I think that's kind of interesting. Would be nice to kind of know, if that was his original ending. Do they have to rewrite his ending, or is it kind of his story arc never changed? All of his scenes were completely normal. That's how they had ended his storyline originally. Even if they had 13 episodes, they wanted to end him there and not bring him back for the next 3 episodes. I could see that being originally his ending. So I think that's really good there. We see Abby. She ends up, she goes to see Maria Sunderland, but Maria Sunderland's been put into a mental hospital, and Abby is just able to just show up there and walk right into her cell. And it just kind of, I didn't understand, it didn't make sense to me, because like, what's the point of Avery putting her in a mental hospital if she's, the whole point is to kind of discredit her and all the things she's saying, so he can get control of his, his money and all the things that she has been doing, right? So I just don't understand why she wasn't really in that. I thought that Avery would have it all locked up so that no one can go see her, I think it would make sense to do that, and it would also but it made sense for Madame Xanadu to be able to get into the room, she's domestic and stuff, so maybe she's able to kind of sneak in type thing. But Abby just able to walk in. It seems like Avery would have had something set up to not let her get access to Maria and, all the information that Maria knows, right? I think that would have been kind of silly there. We see that Carolina Woodrue, she's locked inside of her body. She's in locked-in syndrome because of all the the overdose she took last episode, so that was kind of interesting. So we see Jason Woodrue eat pieces of Swamp Thing, and I think that was just so cool. So cool. Definitely can't wait to see as to where things kind of go with that. That was quite interesting. Abby ends up getting captured by Jason Woodrue and stuff. She sees that he's kind of playing with and trying to test some of the pieces of Swamp Thing and stuff. So that was kind of cool seeing that. We see Avery ends up stabbing and almost killing the sheriff there. What's her name? Lucilia, so the Matt's mother type thing. And that was kind of interesting. He stabs her right through the chest and stuff, and he stabs her through a car seat, which I think with a machete like that, it needs to be a pretty sharp machete to be able to go through a car seat like that, and then through her. Now she could have been wearing body armor, which I guess she happened to have not been wearing body armor, but it just seemed a bit overkill that he was able to push right through the seat to kill her like that, instead of reaching around, slicing her throat, having his own gun, shooting her in the gut, which would have done all the same things type thing. It just seemed like a machete like that would not have the sharp enough or even be solid enough to be able to stab it through, all the way through the stuff completely through her type thing. It just kind of made no sense. It was kind of silly. And then he puts her in her own police car and throws that into the water, leaves her in the trunk. But he leaves her with her cell phone. She picks up her cell phone to use it as a flashlight, and then she just sits there and screams. She doesn't even try to use it to call for help. I know they got shut down. I know everything, probably rushed, and I'll forgive some little things, like that. Like, maybe the some of the silly things and the cheesy soldier dialogue, which I'm not sure if that was done on purpose for, to be, obviously there are some lines that were lifted directly from Predator, just because they had the same kind of scenes type thing, so that was obvious there. But, like this, I'm not sure if this scene was just kind of like, throwing in the back of her trunk, type thing, and all they had to do is just not have her phone type thing. She's a cop, she could have a little flashlight on instead, and, Avery could have taken her phone when he, put her in the trunk and put the car in there, which was kind of interesting too. At the end of that, he drives away in his own black SUV type thing. How did he get the cop car and his SUV to the lake? He was at the parking lot of the hospital. I assume they've never established that the hospital is right next to bodies of water. So how did he get both vehicles there alone? To there. That didn't make sense. It's not like he drove one car, she drove another, and that would have been silly. So it just didn't make sense as to how she got there, how both vehicles ended up right by the edge of the water like that. So that was just kind of silly. And then we end the episode pretty much with Swamp Thing, just thinking about leaving and, wanting to leave and just leave everything behind type thing after he's killed all he's killed all the soldiers, but he leaves that one scientist alive, so that he can, so that he could tell everyone else about him, right, type thing. So that was kind of interesting there. But we end it with him deciding to stick around for Abby, and Abby says the same thing. She was the one to leave, but she stick around for him. So that's kind of interesting with their relationship, and that's where we kind of end. With kind of a few little cliffhangers. We don't know if Avery. We don't know if Lucilia is technically dead. Assumingly she is. She's locked in a trunk, and then she's stabbed through the gut, locked in the trunk, the bottom of the river type thing. So she's most likely dead. And then we have an end credit scene. So if you haven't watched the end credit scene, you didn't know there was an end credit scene, stop this, go back, watch it, and then come back. Directly after the credits, there's an end credit scene there. And if you have watched that end credit scene, then here we go. We see that Jason Woodrue turns into a different version of Swamp Thing type thing, and he kills Matt, or at least we're led to believe he kills Matt. It's pretty obvious that he does. So I think that's quite interesting. I definitely can't wait to see as to where things kind of go with this, if this ever does get picked up. I think it would be quite fun to see as to where things go. I think we're going to have to wait and see as to where things kind of go with this show. I don't know if it's still open, if everyone's passed on this yet. I'm not sure if they're even open at this point. At what point does the show become, it's canceled, now it's open for someone else to pick it up? Or as soon as they canceled, they announced the cancellation at back when the first episode aired. Does anyone else, all the other networks, then from then on allowed to bid for this type of thing. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully they already have something in, a deal like they have with I think Doom Patrol, and maybe, or at least for Titans, they have it on Netflix. So maybe this will also go into Netflix, and then Netflix, maybe they can pick something up like this. So that could be cool. I think it could definitely be quite fun to see this. And I think we'll have to wait and see as to where things kind of go with this, especially if where we're going to have the Mandalorian coming out on Disney Plus in November, if I'm not mistaken, and that's supposed to have a budget of $15 million per episode, so 8 episodes, I think 8 episodes at $15 million, so that's $120 million for a season, so that's a lot more than $80 million, so I think that could be quite interesting to see as to how things go with that show, and then if when that comes out on that show, if Swamp Thing appears on Netflix by that time, then, and it does well on there. Mandalorian does very well at that budget type thing, at that price point. Then, maybe this could also get picked up. So hopefully this, can start appearing on Netflix around that time. And I think it could be quite interesting to see as to where things go. And I think with Mandalorian just a few months, 6 months around, away from being out, we can wait and see as to how things kind of go with that. And I think that could potentially be if that does extremely well, the rising tide will lift all ships, right? Lifts all boats type thing. So I think that could be quite interesting to see as to where things go with that. So let me know what you think, guys, about this in the comments below. Where would you like to see this go next? What would you like to see happen for a season 2? And which network would you like to see pick it up? I just think anyone, but we'll have to just wait and see as to where things go. So let me know what you think, guys, in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
We're here for Kyle Reviewed on YouTube, the very best Kyle Reviewed channel on all the YouTube Kyle Reviewed channels. You got that? You got that right? Thank you for watching Kyle Reviewed. Deadpool and I thought it was fantastic. You need to like, you need to subscribe. You know how it's done? Like, subscribe. Right, DP? All right, Kyle Reviewed. Cool channel.